Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the cold metal chair and watched the alien leaders argue about humans like they were children. The massive council chamber on Nexus Prime Station buzzed with voices speaking in dozens of languages, but the translation devices made every word clear. Too clear. The humans are too dangerous, said High Chancellor Vex Cathara, her blue skin shimmering under the bright lights. The Zephyrian leader stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms that moved like dancing snakes when she talked. They explore systems we have marked as forbidden. They ask too many questions. They refuse to follow proper procedures. Chen kept her face calm, but her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. 50 years. For 50 years, humans had been part of this galactic council. 50 years of being told to sit in the corner and be grateful for the chance to learn from their betters. The Krellian trade minister, a blob-like creature in a mobility suit, made a sound like wet concrete mixing. Human ships go where they should not go. They trade with species we have banned. They make profits we cannot track. This cannot continue. Perhaps, said the representative of the Thex Collective, speaking through one of their drone bodies, humanity needs more guidance, more supervision, more rules to keep them safe. Safe. Chen almost laughed. The council had been using that word for decades now. Everything was about keeping humans safe. Safe from dangerous space. Safe from risky trades. Safe from making their own decisions. The Andorian delegate, looking like a giant praying mantis made of crystal, clicked her mandibles together. We propose new regulations. Human ships must have council observers on all voyages beyond the inner systems. All human research must be approved by the Science Committee. All human colonies must follow standard population controls. Chen stood up. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the small human woman in her simple black uniform. Honored council members, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. I have a question. High Chancellor Vex Cathara's 4 arms crossed in a gesture that meant displeasure. The human delegation was not given permission to speak. I know, Chen said, but I have data. Information that might help you understand why these new rules would hurt everyone, not just humans. The Chancellor's large black eyes narrowed. Very well. Speak quickly. Chen activated her holographic display. Charts and graphs filled the air above her head. In the past 10 years, humans have discovered 47 new systems suitable for colonization. We have established trade routes to 36 previously isolated worlds. We have shared medical research that has saved millions of lives across 7 different species. Your point? The Krellian minister bubbled. My point is that we are not children playing with dangerous toys. We are partners. We contribute. We help. Chen gestured to the floating data. These proposed restrictions would cut human exploration by 80%. They would end our ability to help isolated worlds. They would stop research that benefits everyone. The Thex drone tilted its mechanical head. Perhaps the benefits are not worth the risks. Humans are young, impulsive. They do not understand consequences. Chen felt something cold settle in her stomach. What consequences? What have we done that has hurt anyone? You exist loudly, said the Andorian delegate. You question everything. You refuse to accept that some things should not be disturbed. You make other species restless with your constant movement and change. The truth hung in the air like poison gas. This was not about safety. This was not about rules. This was about fear. Fear that humans were moving too fast, learning too much, growing too strong. We have followed every law, Chen said quietly. We have honored every treaty. We have shared every discovery. What more do you want from us? High Chancellor Vex Cathara stood to her full height, looking down at Chen like an adult scolding a child. We want you to understand your place. You are the newest members of this council. You have been here for barely 50 years. Some of us have maintained galactic peace for thousands of years. Perhaps it is time for humanity to focus on domestic development rather than galactic ambitions beyond your comprehension. The words hit Chen like a physical blow. beyond their comprehension, as if humans were too stupid to understand the galaxy they lived in, as if 50 years of peaceful cooperation meant nothing, as if all their contributions were just lucky accidents. "I see," Chen said. "Good," the Chancellor said. "Then you understand why these new regulations are necessary. The vote will be taken tomorrow. The human delegation may observe but not participate, as this matter concerns Council security." Chen looked around the chamber. She saw the faces of beings she had worked with for years. Some looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up. None defended humanity. None suggested that maybe, just maybe, the newest species might have something valuable to offer. "I understand perfectly," Chen said. That night, Chen sat alone in her quarters and stared out at the stars. 50 years of trying to prove themselves. 50 years of being the grateful junior partners. 50 years of biting their tongues when older species made decisions that made no sense. She thought about Earth so far away. She thought about the human colonies spreading across space, full of people who had never seen an alien world. She thought about the exploration ships pushing into the unknown, crewed by humans who still believed that the universe was full of wonders waiting to be discovered. She thought about Captain Martinez, who had died last year saving a Krellian research station from a solar flare. She thought about Dr. Patel, whose medical breakthrough had stopped a plague on 3 different worlds. She thought about the thousands of humans who had given their lives to protect Council space, not because they had to, but because they thought it was right. And she thought about tomorrow, when the Council would vote to put humans in a cage and call it protection. Chen activated her communication array and entered a code she had hoped never to use. The message was short and used words that sounded innocent to anyone listening. Personal message to Director Hassan, Earth Central Command. Weather conditions have deteriorated beyond acceptable parameters. Recommend implementation of dignity. Protocol. All stations should prepare for extended indoor activities. Message ends. She sent the message and sat back in her chair. In 12 hours, every human in Council space would receive similar messages. Simple words that meant something very specific. It was time to go home. But first they had to decide what home meant. Chen looked out at the stars again. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. The Council controlled maybe 3% of it. They had convinced themselves that their little corner was all that mattered, that anything beyond their borders was too dangerous to explore. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Tomorrow, when the Council voted to cage humanity, they would find their cages empty. Not because humans were angry, but because humans had finally realized something important. You cannot diminish people who refuse to be diminished. You cannot control people who have better places to be. The stars waited, and humans had never been afraid of the dark. The first sign that something was wrong came at 800 station time, when the human trade ship Meridian docked at Krell Station 7 and began unloading its cargo without being asked. Station Commander Blux 9977 watched through the observation deck as human workers moved crates of rare earth metals and medical supplies onto the loading bay. The humans worked with their usual efficiency, but something felt different. They moved like people who had somewhere important to be. Captain Rodriguez of the Meridian approached the commander's office. She was a small woman with graying hair and eyes that had seen too much space. Blux 9977 had known her for 15 years. She always stayed for at least 3 days when she docked, sharing stories and trading information about safe routes through the outer systems. "Captain Rodriguez," Blux 9977 said, his translation unit turning his liquid speech into something humans could understand. "You are early, and you are unloading without authorization." Rodriguez smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "Consider it a gift, Commander. Payment for all the good times. There's enough rare metals there to keep your medical bay running for 2 years. I do not understand. Where is your cargo manifest? Where are your trade requests? Won't be needing them." Rodriguez handed him a data pad. "Everything we owe you is in that cargo bay. Everything you owe us, we're calling even. It's been a pleasure doing business with you." Blux 9977 felt confusion ripple through his liquid form. "Are you leaving?" "That we are. Rodriguez touched the brim of her cap in a human gesture of respect. Take care of yourself, Commander, and tell your replacement to watch out for the solar storms in the Nexus sector. They're getting worse. Before Blux 9977 could ask what she meant about a replacement, Rodriguez was gone. Similar scenes played out across Council space. Human merchants completed their deliveries early and left without taking new contracts. Human research teams transmitted all their data to Council databases and packed their equipment. Human diplomats closed their offices and sent polite messages canceling all future appointments. At the Andorian Science Institute, Dr. Sarah Kim finished uploading 15 years of genetic research to the central computers. Her Andorian colleague, research leader Clix Thera, watched with growing alarm. Dr. Kim, what are you doing? The protein synthesis project is only halfway complete. All our data is in the system, Kim said without looking up from her console. Your people are smart. You'll figure out the rest. But the deadline for the medical committee is next month. We need your biocompatibility studies. Kim paused in her packing and looked at Clix Thara. The Andorian looked like a giant praying mantis made of green crystal, but over the years Kim had learned to read her expressions. Right now, she looked scared. Clix, you've got everything we've learned. Every formula, every test result, every failure and success. It's all there. But we do not understand your intuitive leaps, your human ways of solving problems. The data is not enough. Kim sealed her last storage container and stood. Then maybe it's time you learn to make your own intuitive leaps. She walked toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, Clix, I enjoyed working with you. You're brilliant. You don't need us as much as you think you do. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Chen walked through the human diplomatic section one last time. The offices were empty now, all files transferred to the Council's central archive. The walls looked strange without the pictures of Earth, the awards for humanitarian service, the gifts from grateful colonies. Her assistant, James Park, waited by the main door with the last of their personal belongings. Ma'am, he said quietly, the Zephyrian Chancellor's office has been calling all morning. They want to know what's happening. I'm sure they do. Chen looked around the empty space. 50 years of human presence in Council space, reduced to clean walls and recycled air. Should I return their calls? Send them a message. Tell them, we're following their advice about focusing on domestic development. Thank them for their guidance. Park hesitated. Ma'am, what about the other species, the ones who supported us? The Vorthon medical teams, the Quinn researchers? Chen had thought about this. There were individuals from other species who had become friends, colleagues, even family to humans. Good beings who would be hurt by this withdrawal. Send personal messages to anyone who wants to stay in touch. Give them our new contact information. What new contact information? Chen smiled for the first time in days. They'll know when they need to know. The human withdrawal was not violent. There were no angry speeches, no threats, no dramatic gestures. Humans simply finished what they were doing and left. They paid their debts, completed their contracts, and said polite goodbyes. But the efficiency of it was terrifying. In 72 hours, nearly 2 million humans had vanished from Council space. Ships, stations, research outposts, trade routes, diplomatic missions, all abandoned in perfect order. The humans left behind detailed instructions for maintaining the equipment they had installed, databases full of useful information, and enough supplies to ease the transition. They also left behind problems that no one had realized existed. The first crisis hit the Outer Rim territories. Human courier ships had been the only reliable connection between the isolated mining worlds and the rest of Council space. These routes were dangerous, passing through asteroid fields and unstable star systems that other species avoided. Human pilots had treated these runs like routine deliveries. Without them, 17 worlds were suddenly cut off. The Andorian. Shipping guilds want a 400% hazard pay increase to cover the routes humans used to run, reported Trade Minister Blux Cathera to the Emergency Council session. 400%? High Chancellor Vex Kithera's forearms gestured wildly. That is impossible. They say humans were either crazy or had better ships than anything else in Council space. Either way, they are not willing to take the risks without proper compensation. The Thex Collective had other concerns. Human-designed AI systems across 47 worlds are showing efficiency decreases of 30%. The humans apparently used optimization protocols we do not understand. What about the research programs? Asked the Vorthan medical representative. Awkward. Silence filled the chamber. We are experiencing difficulties, admitted the Andorian science advisor. Human researchers had intuitive approaches to problem-solving that were never fully documented. We have their data, but not their methodology. High Chancellor Vex Cathara felt something she had not experienced in her 300 years of life. Doubt. Surely we can adapt. We maintained civilization for thousands of years before humans arrived. Yes, said her advisor quietly. But we had also stopped growing. Humans brought change, growth, new ways of thinking. Without them, the Chancellor did not let him finish. Schedule a communication with Earth immediately, but when they tried to contact Earth, they received only automated responses. Polite messages thanking them for their interest and wishing them well. No humans available for discussion, no emergency contacts, no way to reach anyone who could explain what was happening. The humans had not just left Council space, they had disappeared entirely. Commander Thex 99991 analyzed the data flowing through the collective consciousness. The humans had been more integrated into Council civilization than anyone had realized. They had filled gaps, solved problems, and connected systems in ways that seemed minor until they were gone. Assessment. Thex 9991 reported to the collective. Human departure represents a 37% reduction in Council operational efficiency. Repairs will require significant resources and time. How long? The collective asked. Thex 99991 processed the calculations. Unknown. Humans approached problems in ways we do not yet understand. We must learn new methods. Then we learn, but even as the collective began working on solutions, Thex 9991 wondered about something else. If humans could leave so efficiently, so completely, what else were they capable of, and where had they gone? 3 weeks after the humans vanished, Dr. Vorthkes stood in the medical bay of Rigel 7 colony and watched her patients die. The plague had started small, as these things always did. A few workers from the mining operation had developed flu-like symptoms. Standard treatment should have cleared it up in days, but this was not a standard plague. Doctor, called her assistant, Medic Ura 9. Patient 14 is showing new symptoms, respiratory distress and neural inflammation. Vorthkes moved to the bed where a young Zephyrian miner lay gasping for breath. His blue skin had turned a sickly gray color, and his forearms twitched with involuntary spasms. Run a full spectrum analysis, she ordered. Check for cross-species contamination markers. The results made her stomach sink. This plague was jumping between species, adapting to each new host faster than their treatments could adapt to it. It was evolving. Doctor, Ura 9 said quietly, should we contact the Human Medical Advisory Board? Vorthkes stopped. The humans are gone, remember? But they developed the rapid response protocols for multi-species outbreaks. They understood cross-species immunity better than anyone. We have their data, Vorthkes said, but her voice lacked confidence. She had the data, thousands of files, detailed studies, careful documentation of every case the humans had handled. But she did not have Dr. Sarah Kim, who could look at a set of symptoms and somehow know which treatment would work. She did not have Dr. Chen Wei, who had an intuitive understanding of how diseases moved between different types of biology. She had information, but not understanding. By the end of the day, they had 47 confirmed cases. By the end of the week, the number had jumped to 300. The colony's quarantine protocols slowed the spread, but could not stop it. Send a priority message to the Council Medical Authority, Vorthkes told her communications officer. We need help. The response came 12 hours later. All available medical teams are assigned to other emergencies. Emergency protocols indicate you should consult human rapid response procedures. Vorthkes wanted to scream. The human rapid response procedures required human medical intuition. It was like having a recipe but missing half the ingredients. She was not alone in her frustration. Across council space, systems that had worked smoothly for decades were breaking down. Not because of sabotage or attack, but because they had been designed with human participation in mind. Trademaster Flux Core of the Krellian Commerce Guild faced his own crisis. The humans had been running supply lines to 43 remote mining operations, asteroid processing plants, and research stations. These were not profitable routes for normal cargo ships. They were dangerous, required custom navigation, and needed pilots crazy enough to fly through unstable star systems. Human pilots had been crazy enough. "Sir," his assistant reported, "the Outer Rim Mining Consortium is threatening to shut down operations. They have not received supplies in 3 weeks. What about the Andorian shipping guilds? They want hazard pay increases that would make the routes unprofitable. They also say their ships are not equipped for some of the navigation challenges." Flux Core examined the route maps on his display. The humans had been threading their ships through asteroid fields that other species marked as impossible to navigate. They had been landing on planets with gravity fields that should have crushed their vessels. They had been doing it so routinely that everyone had forgotten how difficult it was. What about hiring freelance pilots? "Sir, we tried. No one else. We'll take these contracts. The Quinn Explorers Guild says these routes are unnecessarily suicidal. The Vorthan Courier Service calls them death wishes with cargo manifests." Flux Core realized with growing horror that the humans had not just been running difficult supply routes. They had been running impossible supply routes and making them look easy. Meanwhile, on the research station orbiting Kepler 442b, Chief Scientist Eric Thane faced a different kind of crisis. The station's AI systems were failing, not catastrophically, but slowly and mysteriously. "The processing efficiency has dropped another 5%, reported his technical officer. "We cannot identify the cause." Eric Thane studied the diagnostic reports. The AI hardware was fine. The software was running exactly as programmed. But somehow, the system was getting stupider. When did this start? 3 weeks ago. Right after the humans left. Eric Thane felt a cold realization creep through his consciousness. "Show me the optimization protocols." The technical officer brought up screens full of code. It was standard AI programming, exactly what you would expect. But there were gaps. Spaces where subroutines had been removed. These optimization programs, Eric Thane said slowly, they were written by humans. "Yes, sir. Dr. Martinez and her team installed them last year. Improved our processing speed by 40%. And when the humans left, the programs went with them. Apparently they were not part of the standard AI package." Eric Thane sat back in his chair. The humans had not just been using the AI systems, they had been improving them in ways that other species had not understood or even noticed. Until now. The worst news came from the Exploration Authority. Director Crix Vess stood before the Council's emergency session with reports that made everyone uncomfortable. "In the past 50 years, he said, the Council has discovered and cataloged 437 new star systems suitable for colonization." High Chancellor Vex Cathara shifted impatiently. "Yes, our exploration efforts have been very successful. 319 of those discoveries were made by human exploration teams." Silence filled the chamber. That cannot be correct," the Chancellor said. "I have checked the records multiple times. Human scouts have been responsible for 73% of new system discoveries. They have been exploring regions that other species considered too dangerous or unprofitable to investigate." The Andorian delegate made the chittering sound that indicated distress. "But surely other species can take over these exploration duties." Director Crix Vess activated his display. A map of the galaxy appeared showing the boundaries of Council space. "This is where we explore," he said, highlighting a relatively small region. "And this," he highlighted a much larger area, "is where humans were exploring." The human exploration area was nearly 5 times larger than the rest of Council space combined. They were mapping routes to the galactic rim, Crixvest continued. They were investigating energy signatures beyond our sensor range. They were making contact with species we did not know existed. Contact with other species? The Thex Collective spoke with unusual emphasis. What other species? We do not know. Human exploration reports were classified above our clearance level, but long-range sensors have detected construction activity in systems that should be empty. Massive construction activity. High Chancellor Vex Cathera felt her confidence cracking. How massive? Energy readings consistent with artificial star creation. Gravitational anomalies suggesting structures the size of small moons. And movement patterns that indicate faster-than-light travel methods we do not recognize. The chamber erupted in worried chatter. Species that had lived for thousands of years suddenly felt very young and very small. Surely, the Chancellor said, these are just human colonies. They are building larger settlements. Ma'am, Crixvest said quietly, the energy levels we are detecting are beyond anything in Council space. If these are human colonies, then humans have developed technology that makes our most advanced systems look primitive. That night, emergency council sessions ran around the clock. Messages were sent to every human contact they could find. All received the same polite responses. Humanity was focusing on domestic development, as the council had suggested. They appreciated the council's guidance and wished them continued success. But the sensors did not lie. Something was happening beyond the rim of known space. Something big, and the humans were involved. Fleet Admiral Kithex Prime analyzed the data from his command ship. His scanners could detect the edge of human activity, but could not penetrate beyond it. It was as if the humans had learned to hide. Entire star systems. Admiral, his science officer reported. We are receiving a transmission. From where? Unknown. The signal is coming from coordinates that show as empty space on our charts. The message was short and simple. Thank you for your concern. We are fine. Please do not approach. This area is under construction. It was signed with a name Admiral Kithex Prime recognized. Captain Sarah Martinez, the human who had died saving a Krellian research station. But that was impossible. Captain Martinez had been dead for over a year. The message from the dead captain sent shockwaves through Council space. High Chancellor Vex Kithera stared at the transmission data for the third time, hoping it would somehow change. But the quantum signature was unmistakable. The message had come from Captain Sarah Martinez, whose ship had been destroyed 12 months ago while saving a Krellian research station from a solar flare. There must be an explanation, she said to her intelligence advisor, Crixneth. Perhaps another human is using her name. Ma'am, Crixneth replied, his voice carefully neutral. The message included personal details that only Captain Martinez would know. Details about her last conversation with Commander Blux 9977. Details that were never in any official report. The Chancellor felt something she had rarely experienced in her long life. Genuine fear. Send a diplomatic mission to Earth, she ordered. Full ambassadorial protocol, whatever it takes to establish communication. 3 days later, the diplomatic ship Harmony arrived at the Sol system to find something impossible. Earth was gone. Not destroyed. Not invaded. Simply gone. Captain, the ship's science officer reported, I am reading normal planetary mass and gravitational signatures for the Sol system, but Earth is not there. Captain Drix Volan of the Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps stared at the empty space where the human homeworld should be. The other planets were in their correct orbits. The sun burned normally, but the third planet, the blue world that had given birth to humanity, was simply absent. Are we in the correct system? Yes, sir. These are definitely Sol system coordinates. But Earth has been replaced. Where Earth should have been, there was only a small space station. As they approached, it began broadcasting a message in perfect Council standard. Welcome to the Sol System Historical Archive. Earth has been relocated for safety during the construction phase. Thank you for visiting. Please enjoy our museum exhibits about human history before departure. Note: no armed vessels are permitted beyond this point. The message was cheerful and polite. It was also terrifying. An entire planet had been moved. "Sir," the communications officer said, "I am receiving docking instructions from the station." "Follow them," Captain Drixvolan ordered. He needed answers. The space station was small but elegant, clearly built by humans but using technology that the captain had never seen before. The docking bay used gravitational fields instead of mechanical clamps. The airlocks operated with energy barriers rather than physical doors. A single human waited to greet them. She was middle-aged with gray hair and the kind of smile that made you feel welcome and worried at the same time. "I am Dr. Elena Vasquez, curator of the Sol Archive," she said. "Welcome. We do not get many visitors from Council space these days." "Dr. Vasquez," Captain Drixvolan said carefully, "where is Earth?" "Safe," she replied. "Would you like to see the exhibits? We have some wonderful displays about early human space exploration." The captain tried a different approach. "We need to speak with your government. The Council wishes to re-establish diplomatic relations." Dr. Vasquez looked genuinely puzzled. "Government? Oh, you mean the old Earth government. They have not existed for months. We have different arrangements now." "What arrangements?" "Well, that depends on which group you want to talk to. We have the builders, who are working on the new systems. We have the explorers, who are mapping regions beyond the galactic rim. We have the researchers, who are working on projects I am not allowed to discuss. And we have the wanderers, who are making contact with civilizations in other dimensions." Captain Drixvolan felt dizzy. "Other dimensions? Oh, yes. Turns out the universe is much more interesting than we thought. But I am just a curator. You would need to speak with someone more qualified for technical discussions." "Can you arrange a meeting?" Dr. Vasquez considered this. "I can send a message, but you should know that everyone is very busy these days. The construction projects alone require most of our attention." "What construction projects?" "I probably should not say, but since you came all this way..." She gestured to a viewing port. "Look toward the galactic rim." Captain Drixvolan looked. At first he saw nothing but normal space. Then Dr. Vasquez handed him what looked like a pair of simple glasses. "Multi-dimensional viewing lenses," she explained. "We invented them last month." Through the lenses, space exploded with activity. Massive structures floated in dimensions that normal sensors could not detect. Ships the size of asteroids moved between stars using methods that bent space-time itself. Energy readings that should have been impossible pulsed from construction sites scattered across dozens of star systems. "How many of you are there?" the captain whispered. "Hard to say. We have about 40 billion humans working on various projects, but we also have allies now. Friends from beyond the galactic barrier who have been waiting for someone to figure out how to reach them." "Allies? Wonderful beings. Much older than any of us. They have been watching our galaxy for millions of years, hoping someone would develop enough to make contact. Turns out most species get comfortable and stop pushing boundaries, but humans..." She smiled. "Humans never stop pushing." Captain Drixvolan felt the foundation of his understanding crack. The Council controlled maybe 3% of the galaxy. They had always assumed this was because the rest was empty or too dangerous to explore. But humans had found civilizations that had been there all along, just beyond the reach of species that had stopped looking. "We need to speak with your leaders," he said. "I will send the message," Dr. Vasquez promised. "But I should warn you, they might not be available for a while." "How long?" "Well, some of them are currently in other galaxies. The Andromeda project is very exciting, and the builders are working on a project that exists partially outside normal time, so scheduling meetings can be tricky." The captain sat down heavily. Other galaxies. Projects outside of time. In 6 months, humans had gone from junior partners to something unrecognizable. While Captain Drixvolan struggled with impossible revelations, the Council's intelligence services were having their own crisis. Agent Prime Kethex 7701 of the Thex Collective had been tracking human space for weeks. trying to find some sign of the missing population. What he found made no sense. Human colonies that had existed for decades were empty but perfectly maintained. Automated systems kept the lights on and the gardens growing, but no human life signs could be detected. It was as if 2 million people had simply evaporated. But the strangest part was the messages they had left behind. At every human site, Kithex 77001 found the same thing: detailed instructions for maintaining human-built equipment, databases full of useful information, and personal messages for anyone who might visit. The message at the Kepler colony read, "Thanks for everything, Council friends. We have gone exploring. Back eventually. The hydroponics lab has instructions for growing food compatible with most species. Help yourselves. The Kepler humans." At the research station orbiting Wolf 359, they found, "Dear Council scientists, all our research data has been uploaded to your central database. We have also left some gifts in Lab 7. Technology we think you will find interesting. Please use it wisely. Study hard. Dr. Kim and the Wolf 359 team." Every message was friendly, helpful, and completely insane. The humans were acting like they had gone on vacation instead of abandoning civilization, but the gifts they left behind were the most disturbing part. In Lab 7 at Wolf 359, Kithex 7701 found technology that should not exist. Medical scanners that could diagnose diseases before symptoms appeared. Computer processors that operated using quantum effects that Council science said were impossible. Energy generators that produced more power than they consumed. The humans had not just been hiding advanced technology. They had been developing it and leaving it behind like party favors. Analysis, Kithex 7701 reported to the collective. Humans have achieved technological advancement beyond Council capabilities. Current estimation: 100 to 500 years ahead of our most advanced systems. How is this possible? The collective asked. Unknown. Human technological progress appears to have accelerated exponentially after their departure from Council space. Recommendation: Kithex 7701 processed the data for a long moment. Recommend immediate attempt to re-establish contact. Current trajectory suggests humans will surpass us entirely within solar cycles rather than centuries. But when they tried to make contact, they found only automated responses and empty space. The humans had become ghosts in their own territory. The final blow came from the Exploration Authority. Director Crix Vess stood before an emergency council session with news that no one wanted to hear. "Our long-range sensors have detected massive construction activity beyond the galactic rim," he reported. "Energy signatures consistent with artificial star creation, gravitational manipulation on a scale we have never seen, and movement patterns that suggest faster-than-light travel methods that make our current technology look primitive. Are you certain this is human activity?" High Chancellor Vex Cathera asked. "We have received one message from the construction zone," Crix Vess said. It was brief. What did it say? "Construction zone, please keep clear. Project completion estimated 6 months. Thank you for your patience. Humanity." The Chancellor felt her world shift. 6 months for what? 6 months after the Exodus, the invitation arrived. High Chancellor Vex Cathara stared at the message that had appeared simultaneously on every Council communication system. It was written in perfect Council standard, but the quantum signature was unlike anything in their technology. "The graduated class of Sol cordially invites the Galactic Council to attend a demonstration of our final project. Coordinates attached. Come alone or in groups as you prefer. Refreshments will be provided. Ambassador Sarah Chen, Speaker for Free Humanity." The coordinates pointed to empty space beyond the galactic rim. "It could be a trap," worried Defense. "Minister Kithex Prime, a trap for what purpose?" asked Trade Minister Fluxcore. "They have already demonstrated technology far beyond our ability to threaten them." The Chancellor studied the message again. After months of automated responses and polite deflections, the humans were finally ready to talk. But the tone of the invitation was different, formal, but confident. The way an adult might invite children to see their science project. "We go," she decided. All of us. If this is humanity's final word, the Council should hear it together. The joint Council fleet that departed for the coordinates was the largest gathering of alien ships in recent history. 7 different species, each represented by their finest vessels, all traveling together toward an appointment with the unknown. Admiral Kithx Prime commanded the flagship Unity, a massive Thex collective, vessel that represented the best of Council military technology. As they approached the designated coordinates, his sensors began detecting impossible readings. "Sir," his science officer reported, "I am reading artificial gravity wells, massive ones, and energy signatures that they should not be possible." Through the main view screen, the Admiral saw something that made his mechanical mind struggle to process the data. A ring of space habitats surrounded a star that had not been there a week ago. The habitats were massive, each one the size of a small moon, and they glowed with soft light that seemed to bend space around them. Ships moved between the structures using methods that looked more like teleportation than travel. But the most shocking sight was the star itself. It burned with colors that no natural star produced, and energy readings showed it was completely artificial. Humans had built a sun. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced. Ambassador Sarah Chen appeared on the screen, but she looked different. Younger somehow, more confident, and there was something in her eyes that spoke of seeing things beyond normal understanding. "Welcome, friends," she said warmly. "Permission to come aboard your flagship? I think face-to-face conversation would be better for what we need to discuss." Before Admiral Kithx Prime could respond, Chen was standing on his bridge, not transported, not beamed, simply there, as if she had walked through a door that did not exist. "How?" he managed to ask. "One of the things we learned while you were busy with meetings," Chen said with a smile. "Turns out the universe has some interesting properties when you stop assuming that impossible things are actually impossible." High Chancellor Vex Cathera arrived on the bridge within minutes, flanked by representatives from all 7 Council species. They stared at Chen like she was a ghost. "Ambassador Chen," the Chancellor said carefully, "we need to understand what has happened. Where did your people go? What is all this?" She gestured toward the view screen showing the impossible habitat. "Ring. Would you like the short explanation or the complete one?" Chen asked. "Both," said Dr. Erikstein of the Andorian Science Institute. Chen nodded and activated a holographic display that appeared in the air without any visible projector. "The short explanation. You told us to focus on domestic development instead of seeking approval for every innovation. So we did. Turns out when you are not spending 80% of your resources on bureaucracy and diplomatic appeasement, scientific advancement accelerates exponentially." The hologram showed a timeline of human development over the past 6 months. The progress was staggering. Faster than light communication, gravitational manipulation, dimensional engineering, artificial intelligence that operated on quantum consciousness principles. "The complete explanation," Chen continued, "is that we made contact with civilizations beyond the galactic barrier, ancient species who have been waiting for someone to develop enough to reach them. They were impressed by human curiosity and willingness to take risks. They offered to share knowledge." "What knowledge?" whispered research leader Clix Thara. "How the universe really works," Chen said simply. "Turns out most species reach a certain level of development and then stop growing. They become comfortable with their limitations. They convince themselves that certain things are impossible. But humans have never been good at accepting limitations." The hologram shifted to show vast constructions throughout the galaxy. Humans had not just built habitats, they had created pocket dimensions, established colonies in parallel universes, and made contact with civilizations that existed in states of being that Council science had never imagined. "We learned that the galaxy is much larger than your little corner of it," Chen said, and her tone was kind but firm. "We learned that faster-than-light travel is just the beginning. We learned that consciousness itself can be expanded beyond biological limitations. We learned that reality has layers you never suspected." Fleet Admiral Kithx Prime processed the implications. "You are saying we have been primitive." "Not primitive," Chen corrected gently. "Careful, conservative. focused on maintaining what you have rather than discovering what you could become. There is nothing wrong with that approach, but it has limits. Trade Minister Flux Core bubbled with distress. But why leave without telling us? Why abandon the council? Chen's expression grew sad. Because every time we tried to share new discoveries, we were told they were too dangerous. Every time we suggested exploring unknown regions, we were told to be more cautious. Every time we asked questions about the nature of reality, we were told to focus on practical matters. She gestured to the habitat ring visible through the view screen. We built this in 6 months, not because we suddenly became smarter, but because we stopped asking permission to think. High Chancellor Vex Kithra felt a cold realization settle in her mind. You are no longer the same species that left council space. We are still human, Chen said, but we are also more than human now. We have expanded our consciousness, enhanced our capabilities, and transcended the limitations that biology imposed on us. We have become what we always had the potential to become. The Chancellor looked around at her fellow council members. She saw fear, confusion, and a growing understanding of how small they had become. What happens now? She asked. Chen smiled, and it was the smile of someone offering a gift. Now you choose. You can continue as you have been, governing your 3% of the galaxy and calling it the universe. We will not interfere. We bear no grudges and hold no anger toward the council. Or, prompted Dr. Arixthane, or you can graduate too. Chen gestured, and the air around them filled with images of impossible beauty. Cities that existed in folded space, ships that traveled by thinking themselves to new locations, beings of pure consciousness working alongside biological entities to create wonders that had no names. We learned something important from our time in the council, Chen continued. Growth requires risk. Discovery requires abandoning the safety of what you already know. Evolution requires accepting that your current form might not be your final form. She looked directly at each council member in turn. The universe is vast and full of wonders you cannot imagine. There are civilizations out there that have existed for billions of years, working on projects that span multiple galaxies. There are forms of consciousness that make our old ways of thinking seem like children playing with toys. And you want us to join you? Asked Fleet Admiral Kithex Prime. We want you to join reality, Chen said. The real reality, not the small safe bubble you have built around yourselves. But only if you want to. Only if you are ready to accept that everything you thought you knew about the universe was just the beginning. High Chancellor Vex Kithara stared out at the habitat ring. Each structure housed millions of beings, not just humans, but dozens of species she had never seen before. Entities that had transcended their original forms, consciousnesses that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. What would it cost us? She asked. Your limitations, Chen said. Your fear of the unknown. Your need to control everything instead of exploring everything. Your assumption that the way things are is the way things must be. The Chancellor was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked the question that had been haunting her for months. During your 50 years in the council, how much were you holding back? Chen's smile was sad and kind. Everything. We held back everything because every time we tried to share our real discoveries, you told us they were too dangerous or too advanced. So we showed you only what you were ready to see. And now? Now we are free to become what we always could have been. And we are offering you the same freedom. The council members looked at each other, each seeing their own fears and limitations, reflected in alien faces. They had thought they were the advanced civilizations, the wise guardians of galactic peace.